serious. What made you realize that maybe your family wasn't as normal as it seemed? When I was 6 or 7, I was invited to a sleepover and we ruined my friend's mom's makeup and clothes after playing dress up without her permission. Her mom said, "Claire, this is the last straw. I've had enough." I started packing up my things because I assumed her mom was going to call CPS and Claire was going to a new foster home. I sat on the porch waiting for the cop car, and Claire's mom came out. We had a very confusing conversation and eventually Claire's mom realized that when my mother got very drunk and sad and I tipped her over by refusing dinner or not taking a bath, she would call CPS to bring me back to foster care. Claire's mom had a very strange facial expression. She explained that she hadn't really meant anything with that sentence. Then she took us all out for ice cream, monsieur. This utterly broke my heart, thinking of a poor little child so readily accepting rejection. I'm so sorry that was you and I hope you are doing far better now. Nowadays I'm a doctor at the local hospital and have the privilege of working alongside amazing social workers who try their best to make a difference. I'd say after I left high school is when I fully realized how messed up it was. When you grow up in those scenarios, it becomes completely normal to you. While I was in school, my friends were the outcast kids and they also had weird family lives, so it seemed normal to us. I grew up in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house with 13 people, 5 dogs and 3 cats. After I moved away from my hometown and made other friends is when I realized how abnormal everything really was. One day we were talking about childhood stories and I mentioned going on graveyard runs and everybody looked at me like I was nuts. I explained that my dad used to wake my sister and myself up in the middle of the night and tell us we're going on a graveyard run, and to get into the car, he would drive to a cemetery and pull all the way to the back and say, "All right, you have to make your way to the front gate to come back home." We would get out of the car and then he would turn off all the car lights and drive away while we chased after it. I feel like that was much more of a light-hearted weird thing we did, and as an adult I only have fond memories of that experience. My friends told me that was really messed up though. I just asked my dad how he came up with the idea, and here is a copy-paste of his reply. Night of the Living Dead. Asked you guys would you go in a graveyard? And you said no problem, monsieur, so I said, let's go. Lol. Well, that graveyard run thing sounds really bizarre. But honestly, though as you describe it didn't sound, I don't know, it sounded wholesome, like a game. A very bizarre game. Did you ever figure out why your dad did that? I don't need sleep, I need answers. I grew up wealthy, born in '87. Nice house, nice things, normal parents with a large social circle, etc. I've had epilepsy since birth and always assumed my parents put 100% effort into my well-being because they were very loving with access to lots of money. However, my epilepsy was really bad. In 2015 I started getting serious medical treatment for my seizures and every doctor was like, dude, this is really bad. You need to have brain surgery now. I ended up having 3 and all went great. But a few years later I sat down with my parents. I was 30, and asked why the hell they'd never done anything. Their answer, *, we did a lot. We prayed every day that Jesus would heal you and he finally did. *, no mom. Jesus was not a young, sexy and hard-working lady that was willing to give up everything to see me get better. That was my wife. She made it happen. I hate it when people leave medical issues up to God. I sometimes imagine him shaking his head like, bro, I gave you doctors for a reason. Reminds me of the tale about the guy who was stranded at sea and passed on 2 boats because God will save me. He dies. Asks God why he didn't save him. And God answers, what do you mean? I sent you 2 boats. Quote, the variation I've heard is that there was a flood coming. The water is ankle deep and a pickup drives up and they yell, get in. But the guy refuses, saying God will provide. The water floods the first floor of the house and a boat comes by and they yell, "Get in." But the guy refuses, saying God will provide. The water keeps flooding and the guy is on top on his roof and a helicopter comes by and they yell, "Get in." But the guy refuses, saying God will provide. The waters keep rising and he dies and goes to heaven. He asks God why he didn't do anything. "I sent a truck, a boat, and a helicopter. What more did you want?" Quote, God had a lot of patience, goddamn. That most people weren't afraid of their dads and family movie night or game night wasn't just a thing people made up for movies. I was shocked when I learned that my boyfriend's father occasionally says "I love you kitten." Actually acts nice and caressing to "Hi monsieur." Family dinners is what did it for me. I went to a friend's house and at dinner we went around the table sharing about our days, thinking up answers to silly questions. The jealousy was so jarring I could hardly enjoy the moment. I can totally relate. My family doesn't do family dinners at all. My parents eat in front of the TV, and I go upstairs to my room. The only time we have dinner all together at the table is when family is over, and it is really weird. When I found out that most people don't receive punishment by being slapped and locked in the garage, I was 7. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I hope you're doing much better now. I only realized this as an adult. Holding in your emotions and releasing them every few months is definitely not normal. My family aren't the most emotional of people even by British standards. We never say "love you" to each other. Edit. I will say for the record, my parents have told me now and then they are proud of what me and my sister have accomplished in my lives. They're not cold-hearted people at all. I just think they express things in a different way to the majority of people. I grew up in a little town in Texas. Well, I could end it there. That's not all. My brother is autistic, nonverbal and incontinent. I've been extremely poor all of my life and grew up in small houses with barely enough food to feed everyone. When I was old enough to start school, I went. It was pretty normal and I made friends. I had a good time at school and loved my teachers. I seemed like a normal kid with a normal family. My mother came in with my brother one day in a stroller to come pick me up so we could pick up food from the bank. She picked me up from my classroom so all of my friends and classmates saw my brother. He was 9 years old, in a stroller. Not something most people would consider normal. Before I went to see my mom, one of my friends asked me who they were and why a big boy was in a stroller like that. I told them he has autism and the stroller helps my mom with "Hi monsieur." I went off to my mom and came back into school the next day. All my teachers, classmates and friends were treating me different. I went the rest of the year wondering why everyone stopped liking me in the blink of an eye. I realized pretty quickly after the year was over that people think my brother is weird. I tried to hide him for a couple years. Told my mom not to bring him when she came to pick me up. I started not to care after a while because I loved my brother and I was going to stand up for him. No matter what. It's really amazing how you didn't care about their comments and continued to love and care for your brother. It's very hard to not get influenced by others and be scared of what they might think of you. But you overcame that and continued to be a loving sibling. I absolutely adore this. It was really hard. I cannot lie and say that it didn't get under my skin, because it did. My biggest regret was trying to hide him away. I feel like maybe if I tried to educate my peers more that they might have understood that he's not weird. I'm so thankful that we moved into a new state that is very accepting of my brother's disability. Most of the people I talk to about him already know what it is. I've had to educate very few people. It's a breath of fresh air. I love my brother and there's nothing that will ever stop me. I'm glad I have him in my life and that he is now in a safe place where he can live his life comfortably. I'm glad you enjoyed my comment. I'm glad to know that people are becoming more accepting. I didn't realize it was relatively abnormal for parents to be affectionate and totally loving towards one another. I grew up watching my parents kiss in the kitchen, pinch each other's butts when they thought we weren't looking, and hold hands anytime they walk more than 10 steps together. I thought that's just what parents did. But I was sad to discover my minor way outside the norm, and most parents merely tolerate one another, if they're even still together. My parents are celebrating their 40th anniversary next year, and they're more in love than ever. They set a standard of relationship that I don't know if anyone can match. But I'm sure as hell going to try. This is so freaking cute. We have our own dark sense of humor and our own family vocabulary. My friends joined us on a family vacation once. The only thing they said to me afterwards was, "Now we know where you got that terrible sense of humor from." Quote, "Just lots of bad jokes and puns every second of the day. We put the fun in dysfunctional." Quote, "Ahaha, that's actually wholesome and embarrassingly funny at the same time." Growing up, I was told, rather than milk and cookies, to leave out a ham sandwich and a 6-pack of Busch Light for Santa. We used to leave out Jaffa cakes and beer. And we never thought it was odd that Santa and my dad shared the same favorite treat. I don't know when I realized we weren't normal, but I think I was really little. I saw dads being kind, calling their little girls their princess and not getting mad at them all the time. I think that's when I realized being yelled at every day, feeling scared around your dad wasn't normal. Thing is, I just thought it was okay. I thought he was always right and I just needed to do better. I thought it was okay feeling like you can't ever escape from your dad wherever you go. When did I realize this wasn't okay? That he was abusing me emotionally? Well, I would say when he screamed names in my face after I didn't understand what he said when I was 11. So I guess you could say I realized twice. Same. The family round the corner from my house had a chill dad who played with them and went on bike rides, and I was so jealous. My dad would just say weird shit to me to put me down when I was like 5. I remember thinking, what's this guy's problem? When I realized we were all addicted to my mother's painkillers. I still remember the first time at 16 finding out what opiate withdrawals were. I couldn't go to school without hydrocodone, oxycodone, Xanax and Soma every day. It made me the kid I wanted to be, confident and social, everything I wasn't normally. Yet we looked like the perfect upper-middle-class family until we weren't anymore. Still dealing with the consequences of the shit at 31 years old on Suboxone. Well, it must have been a lot to go through when you found that out. How were you all addicted to your mother's painkillers? Though, she just gave them to me and my sister, I guess out of ignorance, maybe IDK. She also bribed us with them to do work around the house and shit. It ended up being a really toxic situation. Yeah, I need this answered. Were they just out at the dinner table all day like mints or what? I can totally see the mother being the one who normalized this within their family. More than once my mother has tried to push her prescriptions on me. Mostly muscle relaxers. Even when I said flat out that I didn't want or need them, she would insist by saying she was my mother and just wanted to help me. Also, why don't you trust me? Etc. Some people just can't accept their own faults and need to push them onto other people to feel better. Misery loves company. This weird behavior of giving other people your medication. Is it more common in the United States? I have seen it most commonly from American friends or partners of friends. Some parents actually treat their adopted and biological kids as if they're both their kids entirely, and one being adopted just means the DNA is different and isn't a factor in their parenting or a topic in any conversation. Same. My mom married my non-biological dad when I was 4, and there has never been any difference from him or his family in how they treat me versus how they treat his biological kids. My dad's parents let my spouse, my kid and I use their timeshare like 3 times now. We always get the same level of stuff on holidays. Now that I'm in my 30s, I am floored by how amazing my dad and his family were. That's what I don't get. Why on would you adopt a child then to dislike it and not treat it as your own? Either fully care for it or not adopt it in the first place. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.